Hey everyone from Detroit. As you know, in our city, we're crazy about cars, and I'm no exception. My name is Michael, and my channel is all about that. Subscribe if you're interested in in-depth insights from someone with real hands-on experience. All right, let's get into it.
So I bought my Nissan Leaf 2 from America. It was a bit of a process, getting it shipped over here to Belarus, but it was worth it. I'd been looking at electric cars for a while, and the Leaf 2 seemed like the perfect fit for my needs and budget. The whole experience of importing it was a learning curve, let me tell you. There were definitely some bureaucratic hurdles to jump, but nothing insurmountable. I'd be happy to talk more about that in another video if you guys are interested. Just let me know in the comments. Before the Leaf, I was driving a pretty gas-guzzling old car. Honestly, I was spending a fortune on fuel. Switching to electric has been a huge change. I'm driving a lot more now, simply because it's so much cheaper. I used to really limit my trips, especially longer ones, because of the cost of petrol. Now, I can go anywhere without worrying about emptying my wallet. It's amazing how much more freedom you get when you're not constantly thinking about fuel prices. I've even started exploring more of the countryside around Belarus, which has been fantastic. Now, let's talk about range. The power reserve on my Leaf 2 is pretty good, especially for my daily driving. I usually get around 150 to 200 kilometers on a single charge, depending on the weather and how much I use the heater or air conditioning. In the winter, it definitely drops a bit, but it's still manageable. I've done some longer trips, and I've had to plan my charging stops carefully, but it's all part of the experience, and honestly, the planning aspect isn't as stressful as I thought it would be. I've discovered some really nice places along the way, places I probably wouldn't have visited if I was just focused on getting from point A to point B as quickly as possible. Charging is super easy. I charge it overnight in my garage from a regular household outlet. It takes a while, of course, but it's convenient. I just plug it in before I go to bed, and it's fully charged by morning. I haven't looked into getting a faster charger installed yet, but for my current usage, this works perfectly. It's a slow and steady approach, but it fits my lifestyle. I'm not in a rush, and I appreciate the simplicity of it all. No more frantic dashes to the gas station. It's a really peaceful way to recharge my car and myself at the end of the day. So let's talk about public charging stations in Belarus. Finding them isn't always a breeze, I'll be honest. There aren't nearly as many as you'd find in Western Europe, for example. The ones that are available are often located in inconvenient places, or they're quite slow. I've had instances where I've had to plan my entire day around finding a suitable charging station, which can be a real hassle. The availability is definitely something that needs improvement, and it's a major factor to consider if you're thinking about buying an electric vehicle here. Sometimes the chargers are broken, sometimes they're simply too busy. It's a bit of a lottery, really. You really need to plan ahead and use a charging app to check availability before you set off on a journey. Now, something that surprised me, and maybe this will surprise you too, is that fast charging stations aren't really necessary for dormitories. Think about it. Students are generally charging their phones and laptops overnight. The Leaf 2's charging speed is perfectly adequate for this kind of overnight charging. Spending money on expensive fast charging infrastructure in dormitories just doesn't seem like the most efficient use of resources. It's much more practical to focus on providing sufficient, slower charging points that are readily available and consistently working. The slow charging is perfectly fine for overnight charging, and that's when most students would be charging anyway. One thing I've noticed about the Nissan Leaf 2 is the lack of active battery cooling. This means that on really hot days, the battery can overheat, and that can affect its performance and longevity. I've definitely noticed a reduction in range on particularly sweltering days. It's something to be aware of, especially during the summer months. I try to avoid charging during the hottest part of the day, and I've found that parking in the shade helps a bit. It's not ideal, and it's definitely a drawback compared to some other EVs on the market, but it's something I've learned to manage. Nissan could definitely improve this aspect in future models. Getting spare parts for my Nissan Leaf 2 in Belarus hasn't been a problem, thankfully. I've had to order a few minor things, and the process has been relatively straightforward. There are several reputable suppliers, both online and offline, that stock common parts. The prices are comparable to what you'd find for other vehicles, so that's a relief. Of course, some more specialized parts might take a little longer to arrive, but overall, I haven't experienced any major difficulties in sourcing what I needed. This is a big plus, as access to parts can be a significant concern for owners of less common vehicles. Finally, there's been some interesting news lately regarding electric vehicle infrastructure development in Belarus. The government has announced plans to expand the network of public charging stations, which is very encouraging. There are also discussions about offering more incentives for EV owners, such as tax breaks or subsidies. It's still early days, but these developments suggest a growing commitment to supporting the transition to electric vehicles. It's good to see some positive movement in this area, and I'm hopeful that things will continue to improve in the coming years. This is all very positive news for current and prospective EV owners in Belarus.